Let's go ahead and start with the Wednesday, January 29th, birthday eve meeting. I'll go ahead and bring us to order and start with the roll call.
Chair Lane,
Here.
Vice Chair Polito,
Here.
Commissioner Levinson,
Here.
Commissioner Tonelli, and Commissioner Bryant are absent.
And both are excused.
Correct.
All right, very good. All right, then I'll go ahead then, and the public comment section on our agenda has to do with items that aren't on the agenda. That way somebody can come up and tell us about something that we should be looking into or tell us about
Actually, Chair Lane, it's specific to the items that are on the agenda.
It's
Yeah,
a special
because this is
meeting.
a
That's
special
right.
meeting.
Okay, good. Right, you're right. This is more like the town council meeting format.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good. So we'll start with public comments on the item on the agenda this time, which is not our standard approach, but it is this item. So we'll go ahead and I'll open up the public comment section for items from this items that are coming up on the Planning Commission agenda tonight. Go ahead and open up public comment. Anybody here to speak on the item? Right, we're dying for a lack of a second. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Nobody online either, right?
Yeah, no one online has indicated that they would like to make public comment.
All right, very good. Then I'll go ahead and close the public comment section and bring it back to public hearing. And once we get the staff report, I will open up again for public comment just to make sure there's nothing that anybody understands, a new understanding they have from the staff report. What we'll do is we'll have a staff report. The commissioners will then ask for specific questions of staff, and then go ahead and open up the public comment section again and bring it back for discussion and action as appropriate. So with that, Brittany, you want to give us an overview of the packet we've all gone through and how things have moved ahead?
Yes, thank you. Town Planner Brittany Bendix. We're here tonight to.
Your mic on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You got it? Okay, good.
Stay close to it.
Yeah, I just barely could hear you.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
So we're here tonight for updates to the housing element in response to the comments that we received from the Housing and Community Development Department of the state. We'll go over our recommendation, provide some background on and summary of the December HCD letter, then go over the changes in response to the HCD letter, provide some indication of next steps, and then open it to discussion for the Planning Commission. Our recommendation tonight is that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution that recommends that the council adopts these revisions to the Atherton General Plan and Municipal Code to comply with the December 30th, 2024 letter from the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. Just a background of where we've been. Over July through August 2024, the Planning Commission reviewed the CEQA analysis, the housing element and zoning code updates. Then over September through October 2024, the City Council reviewed the documents and adopted the housing element, CEQA documentation and zoning code updates. That package was then sent to HCD on October 30th, 2024, and we received a comment letter in response to the town submission on December 30th, 2024. In the staff report, we've provided a summary of what the letter said and the actions that the town staff has taken to address those comments. And then we've also indicated a reference so that you can better navigate the document. Unfortunately, the attachment B is the entire housing element, even though we really only changed maybe 10 pages at most. So I thought that it was potentially helpful for everybody to include kind of this navigation reference. The first item that I'll identify is HCD's comments about the suitability of non-vacant sites. This was getting at additional analysis that they wanted to see on Menlo School and Sacred Heart. Those two sites are accommodating some of our multifamily housing, and they wanted to understand the layout of the campus similar to what we had done for example developments that we had provided in response to their feedback. We just needed to add in the same kind of site plan analysis for Menlo School and Sacred Heart. So that's how we approach that response, and the references page 92 to 24 of attachment B. Actually, I think that slide wrong. Let me check. 94, pages 92 to 94 of attachment B. We also modified housing element table HE 17 to include a few additional columns that show redevelopment indicators. And that is provided on pages 97 to 99, as well as 102 of attachment B. And then the third issue that we've summarized here is that the HCD letter acknowledges that there may be some additional updates required to the electronic sites inventory. This is really just a reminder because we're not changing any of the sites that we are addressing, especially relative to the school sites. No changes were made.
You want us to go through all these and then come back to questions about these?
Whatever your preference is, we can, actually, why don't we take questions on each of the items as we go
Okay.
through it? So if there are any questions on these, we can address that now.
On the page 92 to 94 section, as I read it, I just want to make sure that you're comfortable that that'll be enough of an expansion to make them comfortable with the answer.
Sure. And I failed to mention, I have my colleague Asher Cohn here with me from M Group who can address some of these responses.
Okay. Asher, go ahead. You up to?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, this is Asher Cohn from M Group. Right. The extent was really trying to respond to HCD's wanting to see more analysis. They didn't have any issues with the suitability of the sites, the suitability of the comparative sites. They wanted us essentially to show our work to provide more information there.
All right. So there's only like 2 sentences of change in the 92 to 94 pages. Yeah. Maybe 3 sentences of change. You're comfortable that that'll be enough to satisfy their concern about the item?
We believe so. We think the maps are really what they want to see, and the additional 2-3 sentences are giving context for the
Right.
maps.
All right, good. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Pictures are new too, right?
Exactly.
That's the,
And I will add that we will be meeting with HCD to go over this prior to council's adoption to make sure that there's no additional fine tuning, because I agree that when you look at the extent of the revisions, they're pretty minor.
Right.
It seems, that some of this maybe could have been done retroactive, or not retroactively, but conditionally.
Right.
But because of the nature of the town and how some of this is new and the flexibility that HCD is granting us, it seems that they really wanted to make sure that they locked in certain language and the methodology and the background discussion.
Right. And then on the 97 to 99, it says modified table HE 17 to redevelopment indicator. So that would be this chart. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's the pink columns that were added.
this page is kind of over my pay grade. I'm not sure couldn't quite figure it out.
Sure.
Can you provide an additional summary?
Yes, absolutely. So what this table shows is other sites on the peninsula that
Actually,
oh.
can you pause for a second while I bring it up? That way everybody can look at it.
sure thing.
Might want to explain it by color code.
Mhm.
Almost one more revision, it'll be on legal size paper. And I just want you to know, I'm not questioning the revisions or anything else. I just want to make sure that, you know, this is a point where if we do this exactly right now, then we have a plan and the city can go on and go to the next phase of this process.
Almost there. Trying to avoid scrolling while zooming or projecting, because that's never fun.
I think we've been involved with more than 5 years. Some preliminary prep before the participation of
And
the,
more than 3.
right.
Where to go?
Okay, thank you, Brittany. So this table shows sites throughout the peninsula, San Mateo, Santa Clara County that we've looked at that have redeveloped recently in a similar fashion to how we're seeing how we're projecting to HCD, the RM20, RM40 sites will develop. I'm not saying these are sites that had existing uses on them. They weren't, you know, blank canvases for development, and there was residential development, oftentimes affordable residential development that occurred on these sites. So the black and white, kind of the leftmost 3/4 of it are saying the name of these sites, where they are, and the zoning and land use of those sites, as well as the number of units and the proposed density for these sites. So that just kind of gives background contextual information. And you'll see a lot of these have, many of these are much larger than the sites we're imagining in Atherton, but they're kind of good comparisons for development typologies. The development trends shows the types of developments based on what was there before. So some of these, there previously was a non-residential land use. Now it's transitioning to residential. B is an intensification of existing residential use. C would be development of a portion of a larger parcel. This is something where existing use remained. Now there's new residential use alongside. And D is something that would be transit-oriented development eligible. So it's in a half mile of Caltrain station, essentially. So what we added are these purple columns, which are the redevelopment factors. And these are basically, if you're thinking like developer, what would be something that is enticing? So the first one is improvement over land value ratio. And this is something we show below in table HE18, which are the sites in Atherton. For this, we don't have historic assessors data available, so we put not applicable. F is if the existing use was 30 years old or more. G would be developer interest, which again, for historic developer, all of them by definition had developer interest. And H said if the floor area ratio of the site before development was less than 0.5, that would be basically interpreted as underutilized and available for residential development. So what we're showing with this table is these are sites that we think are good comparisons for what we're potentially projecting to happen on the RM20, RM40 sites in Atherton. And these blue and purple columns show why that's the case, essentially showing more of our work.
Okay, so then let's ask about E then. That's the NA category, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so is that going to be an issue that it's all NA?
No, we spoke about this a bit in conversations with HCD. There's no historic assessor data for what was happening in, for example, Sunnyvale when something was developed 10 years ago. So
Okay.
we don't have that data. They know that,
There are
and
some
we're
data.
just acknowledging that.
Okay.
But this is all related only to RM20 and RM40. Because every lot in Atherton has less than 50% ratio.
Correct. This is only for comparisons to RM20, RM40.
Good. All right, and the text that goes with these will be enough to them and for them to give context for what they need to. Right? All right, that's the only question I had on this. I'm just trying to make sure that we're very clear on what their comments are and how the comments that we've made relate to that and that they will address their issues. Okay, next item. Next group.
So the next category of revisions that we have are related to program-specific language. The first one is clarifying that the RM 20 and 40 standards in the housing element, and that these developments are anticipated to have at least 20% affordability to lower income units, do not require discretionary action. There was some language that HCD wanted to see there, specifically the term ministerial approval, which is effectively means that staff can review and approve these developments. Again, this is specific to the RM 40 language, RM 20 and 40 language. And so that's something that we've added on page 120 of attachment B, clarifying that there are kind of two distinct paths for multifamily housing in the PFS zones. There's the one that are the path consistent with the housing element are ministerially approved, and then the path outside of that would require conditional use approval because that wasn't necessarily something that was considered in the housing element. And then we also updated the zoning code language or the municipal code language to capture this change, and that's provided in attachment D. That's the only change that we're proposing to the municipal code tonight.
Just for a detail item, it's the revisions are on page 119 and 120. Just for what it's worth, because the first ministerial comes up on 119. So they're using this as their summary. That might help them.
Okay.
Of course, the red print it'll be a way too. Right. All right. That one seems to directly address. What were the revisions on the minimum density? That was.
That's another slide.
Okay.
And that's actually, I think, what we were getting at on page 119.
Okay. All right.
Then we have provide additional context in the housing element and potentially the RM 2040 standards about the Clovis decision and its application to Atherton. The Clovis decision is relevant to the RENA, any sites that are part of the RENA and not part of the AFFH program, which is the RM 10 program. So this is really focusing on RM 20 and 40 again. And staff provided additional context in section 3.420 to further document the town's approach and clarify how that distinction is made. And that's on page 177 of attachment B.
And the revisions on page 176 are related to that same thing?
Sorry, that's 119. Sorry, it's page 119, not 177.
Oh, okay.
And what was your question, Chair Lane? I'm sorry.
I'll wait till you get to it because 176 has some red on it. So I wanted.
Okay, are there any other questions on the slide? No, okay. This next one is revising program 3.811B, which is relative to SB 9 to evaluate development trends and identify alternatives if necessary in a mid-cycle check-in. Specifically, what HCD was looking for was the addition of alternatives. This language actually somewhat serves the town because it opens up what the available options are at the mid-cycle check-in that we could pursue. So that's what we've added here, and that's on page 177 of attachment B.
Revisions on 176 related to,
I'm getting there.
okay, got it.
So these are additional recommendations that staff saw as we were cleaning up these items. The first one is including the
So
minimum.
these items are separate from the letter that they gave us.
Yes.
I got it. All right. That's what was confusing me.
Yeah, so the first one, this is an issue where we had it in the adopted municipal code, but the cells in the table were left blank in the housing element. We're plugging them in here and cleaning that up. That's page 120 of attachment B.
Got it. All right.
And then the second one was actually a recommendation by HCD that didn't make it into their letter. They were identifying that if we revised program 3.812 to set an objective of 8 units for extremely low income households through the APR, the annual progress report that we do every year, we've already met that standard. And so it was something that they actually brought to our attention that we should highlight as a metric that we've already achieved. And that's identified on page 176 and 181 of attachment B.
All right. That makes sense. All right. That's good.
Any other comments on that, or sorry, questions on the slide? Okay, so the next step after the planning commission makes a recommendation is that we bring this to council for a February hearing. Because this set of changes requires an amendment to the municipal code, even though it's small, it still requires that the council have at least 2 hearings on this item. This is one of the reasons why we've had a special meeting with the planning commission to get this moving forward, is because it looks like we'll have a hearing at least in February and March with the city council. As I've also mentioned, staff is planning to engage with HCD on these proposed responses to their changes. We do have some flexibility to work anything additional into the city council's consideration before their February meeting. So that's something that we're going to work on as well. If the council adopts the revisions as we've proposed, then the new version would be submitted to HCD and found substantially compliant with the statutory requirement. So we're angling for certification here clearly.
So
So-
just
Go
to
ahead.
be sure. We're only recommending that they approve these minor changes. Everything else, the cart's out of the barn.
Correct.
So for example, the letter from Riddle on his property, it's not an act, I mean, nothing to discuss. That's already been approved by council.
Correct. We also didn't notice any changes to that level.
Sorry?
We didn't provide public notice of changes at that level.
So if I don't think they will, but if the council does revisions, does it come back here, or does their revisions stand and then it goes to the state?
They would stand and go to the state.
Okay, good. So this will be the last time we see this.
In this capacity, yes.
All right, good. And until if the state were not to approve it, then it could be a thing. All right.
Yes.
All right. So, and you're confident that these changes will be aligned with what their expectations are?
Yes.
Yeah, because yeah, okay. Good. All right. Other questions? All right, then I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment section one more time, unless you have anything else, Brittany.
No, that's it.
All right. I open it up.
No.
All right, I'm going to open up the public comment section again, just to make sure there's nothing new that anybody heard and they want to comment on.
I'd like to talk.
All right, hold on one second. Anyone in the room? All right, so who's online?
It's Mr. Riddle, 97 Frederick Avenue.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Yeah, concerned that they are not addressing the request from the state to provide further information on the public facilities and services available to suitable inventory sites, which would potentially include the R10 sites. They are asking for further information, and it's real clear that there are no services. There's no public transportation. There are no reasonable services close by, and therefore they don't fit the requirement unless, and I'd like to hear what the town council is going to say in regards to that request from the state. Also, the idea that it can't be changed is, I don't think makes any sense, because it's clear that the R10 on Bay Road don't fit any of the requested matters of state intent or legislative intent. They are not RENA, expressly not RENA. They are not further housing, and they are not variety of housing. It's clearly stated there is no reason to have those homes included in the state or in the housing element. They are not answering any of the state legislative intent, and for the state to say we won't pass it unless we get these superfluous homes in here makes no sense. And I wish that the Planning Commission would again recommend that the city council make reasonable, good governance decisions and remove at least 999 Ringwood Avenue, which, because of its shape and because of other areas, makes no sense to be included. That be removed, and recommend that it be removed from the rezoning and included in the element. You've all heard my pitch, and I think it makes sense. The only additional thing I would say is that I observed the other day in that almost half a mile lineup of traffic that goes in front of these homes every morning, that the cars coming out, one car coming out of the driveways on that area, they block the bikeway. Every car coming out of there blocks the bikeway until they can get into the line of traffic. Children are riding their bikes around that into the lane of traffic. The danger there is unconscionable. And I wish that you would consider the dangers that are being introduced by this in your analysis of the safety and what is good for the country. It makes no sense to put in this superfluous homes and ruin the entire Menlo Park side and those people in Atherton who've already going to lose millions of dollars in the valuation of their homes, to include them in this project. And I wish you would again recommend to the town council that they remove at least 999 Ringwood Avenue from the proposed housing element.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else online that wants to speak?
No one else has indicated to me on the Zoom that they would like to make a public comment.
All right. All right. And no one's in the room still wants to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section, bring it back for discussion and action as appropriate with the commission. So only way I would say about making a recommendation to the town council at this point is that they have our board with some of the comments, the recommendations, some of the comments, and the town council. Joe, I saw that. I just closed the public hearing, Doug. I can bring it back up, but I need you to be pithy. All right. I'll go ahead and open the public comment section and bring it back. All right. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you very much. I heard the other individuals' comments. I live at 319 Oakwood Place in Menlo Park. I've been on the Planning Commission for 12 years in Menlo Park. I understand what is taking place. My concern is traffic. And I understand that you're going to keep the sites on Ringwood and the 3 on Bay Road. But I will tell you right now, the traffic here, you will, with the number of units you can provide, will destroy anything. Because right now, during the week, work week, there are at least 25 cars that turn left off of Bay Road going south on Del Norte and take a quick right in front of my house to get back to Ringwood. And they travel very fast to get back to Bay Road. Minimum of 25 from 10 to 8 to 8:30 in the morning. That happens every single day. The other thing is that the Planning Commission needs to take into consideration of these things of the flood park development, which is being done now. And from the EIR for flood park, that you will get a traffic D consideration at Ringwood and Bay Road. That will happen. You have also need to think in terms of, you're on the planning commission, you don't have an EIR, but I can tell you right now that at commute times, you have a minimum of 10 or 15 cars coming east on Ringwood to get to Bay Road all the time.
Right.
And you need to consider traffic. I understand, I see it every day. And it will just get worse. You cannot use those 4 houses because those 3 of those are going to come off onto Bay Road. And it will not happen because the traffic backs up to their houses, commute time. Simple as that.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the online to speak? I'm going to close it. And then when I close it now, I'm going to keep it closed. So if you say something now or not. All right, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait, you got something? All right, go ahead. You have for somebody in the room.
I'm Zach Whitman. I live at 26 Selby Lane, and I've been renting rooms in my home with them for 15 years, and all but one of them have a car. These are not people who have a lot of money, and I think the presence of services is irrelevant. You know, who live anywhere can drive to what they need.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. I drop and when you hear the click, it's off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section. So a couple things, just for people who haven't been part of these earlier planning commission meetings. The planning commission made all the comments around traffic on Bay Road as part of our recommendation, not to include some of those homes in our recommendation. And town council heard comments and went ahead and put it in. So at this point, they've made their decision and came back with another recommendation not to do it as is just, superfluous. The bigger issue for me on traffic on Bay Road is with the builder's remedy and issue down in Menlo Park, down towards the end on Middlefield. That's going to be double traffic on Middlefield and on Bay Road. So I'm more worried about the builder's remedy issue and what could happen to those properties if we don't have a plan that creates a builder's remedy opportunity, quote unquote, on those properties that are there now. Without a plan, builder's remedy is a real risk, as Menlo Park has already found out. So at least we can contain it and manage it to the best we can, even though that location was not a recommendation from the planning commission. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the Ringwood property. When the planning commission voted to remove all those properties, recommended removing all those properties, we had no idea how far along the town's conversations with HCD were. I kind of fault staff, not necessarily you personally, maybe George. I don't know, but we should have been aware of that. I think if we had been, we would not have recommended removing all those sites. However, I still think we would have recommended removing the Ringwood property
Right.
for all the reasons that Mr. Riddle elaborated on in his letter that we just received, and also others. The fact it's a five-way intersection adds complications. The fact that there's 3 different jurisdictions involved in that little corner of the world, which will make it extremely difficult to achieve any remediation if it becomes required. And particularly because of the vehicle, it's a high VMT area. In fact, the very last paragraph in our municipal code changes that you gave us talks about high VMT areas and the things that should be done to make sure that there's no impact. There's no way that that lot can achieve multifamily housing of any kind, not have a negative impact on that intersection. And it is a dangerous intersection because of cars, because of the 2 schools and all the foot traffic, because of the bridge coming over from East Menlo Park that dumps all those walkers to that intersection. And now because of the world of electric scooters and e-bikes that travel 25 and 30 miles an hour. I live near there, and I'm telling you, it's the wild, wild west. And if anything could be done to remove that one property on that corner with those poor sight lines and the additional situation that we're figuring out, unintended consequences, that RM10 doesn't necessarily mean RM10. You could end up with 17 units there, 34 vehicles. That corner is an accident waiting to happen, and that corner lot,
Right.
the council should do something about it.
Yeah, and we made those who made comments, we had made those comments forwarded on to the council and HOs.
I understand, but I think it's we don't want to be a part of poor planning. We want to make sure we're on the record.
Right.
And
I
I
agree.
personally am on the record that corner lot should not be an RM10
Right.
overlay.
All right. Andy, anything?
I would agree, and I think it's unfortunate. I think some of the council members expressed the same concern. I think the other problem is if they come off something else.
Right. Which is, which was, I think, the dilemma they were trying to address.
Agree.
Well, we can't substitute anything in without going back to CEQA, I don't believe. So,
There you go. That's
so the question is if that one parcel out of the, I don't know how many there are, RM10 sites was eliminated, is that going to square the deal with HCD? I don't think it will, but again, I just think that I hate to see us compound the previous mistakes, and we made a lot of them along the way. Not necessarily the planning commission. I think the planning commission has made very few, but council has. It's been a learning process. And when we get into these density bonuses, like we discussed with council the other day, I mean, the unintended consequences of some of these things are going to continue to proliferate.
I think the issue that the town council is going to have to deal with is any changes at this point is going to disrupt this thinking with the state. And this is, as I mentioned before, this is legalized bad planning, and the law as it now stands is not good planning. It doesn't account for traffic. It doesn't account for a number of different things that would normally be just a very straightforward planning process. But it's worse if we don't have a plan by a lot. And so that's the balance that I'm trying to make sure that we don't get in a situation where we don't have a plan and somebody comes in and says, okay, well, let's do 90 places there on the corner because we're from Texas and we don't care what California looks like. So, all right, with that then, Brittany, is there anything that we need to be updated on in terms of that? I mean, so all I would say is that some of these comments need to be put in front of the council members, either in a packet or someplace so they understand the situation.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right, then I guess we're ready for a motion or not. So I can make a motion, but take it. Yeah.
I move to adopt the resolution recommending adoption of amendments to the Atherton General Plan Code 2020, 2031 Atherton Housing Element.
Second.
Seconded. All right, we can do all those in favor, say aye at this point because there's only us right here and there's nobody online. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes 3-0. That gives us the majority that we need. And then there's nothing else, no other action we need to take on that, Brittany? All right. Okay, so then just for those who might have come online late, would you go over again what the next steps are?
Sure. So the next thing, we'll be taking this to the city council on February 15th. Let me just double check that that's the actual date. Sorry, February 19th. Wednesday at their regular meeting. From there, we will do an introduction, potentially a first reading, combined introduction and first reading. And then likely at their regular meeting in March will be the second reading.
Okay.
And I'll put that timeline up on our housing element update website.
All right. And then from there, from that, so even though you are going to be going over the proposal that you're going to be going over with the town council in advance of the town council meeting, so that you understand there's going to be an alignment. When they get done with their approval, that's just an approval to be recommended to the state. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then how much time does the state have to respond to that approval after they approve it?
30 days.
60.
60 days. So after the council makes their final decision, which would be at the second reading hearing, there's another 7-day public window comment opportunity. And then after, similar to what we did in October, after that, then we submit the full package and HCD has 60 days to respond.
Okay. All right. So the only question I have then is so let's do the motion. Right now it's all done. So the only thing I want to understand is in that time period between now and 60 days later, what?
Yes, a builder's remedy application could come in.
All right. So that's what I was concerned about. All right. So if the town council approves it, and the state takes 60 days to get the approval, and they approve what we approved on that date, does that do anything to that window? So what I'm saying is there a retroactive cover from the day that the town council approves it or not?
I don't believe so, but there were some recent updates to state law on the
Yeah.
builder's remedy, so I'll take another look at that.
All right. All right. That's it. That's it. So, and that's it on that item then, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with that then, thank you all for coming, and then we'll go ahead and I've got the next item agenda is staff report. Anything?
No,
You've done a pretty good job of staff reporting on this whole meeting, so that's good.
yeah,
Nothing other than that is going on right now that we need to know about.
not currently, no.
Okay. And I don't have a commission report. Any commission reports?
Just a question for Brittany. So the joint meeting we had with the city council regarding inclusionary fees on RM10 sites. Or
On all
a- a-
sites.
On all
Yeah.
multifamily sites, but the fees would not necessarily be the same on 20 and 40 that they are in 10. When are we taking that back up?
I'm thinking about late March, maybe early April. I'm trying to figure out spring break schedules too. So I'll have an update for you on that in February at our
I
regular
think
meeting.
this is priority one, so that's done, but I want to make sure that everybody's prepared before we go into that meeting.
Yeah, and currently the thinking is it would just be a continuation of the last meeting, because it seems like there was additional discussion that wanted to be had in certain areas. Without going back and revisiting the study, I think we might be coming back to you and asking if you want to revisit the study, have BAE do additional analysis. And so I'm working with BAE right now to figure out what the cost and the timing is associated with that.
Well, I've talked to at least one council member, and he and I are of the same mind that the study needs to be redone in such a way as to apply as much construction as possible. And I personally think the last people we want to get involved in inclusionary housing are the RM10 sites, because of all the unintended consequences. They can make money at market rates, and the minute you start pushing them down that road to affordability, we're going to have basically RM17 or RM20, or I don't know what the limit is and our design standards are out the window. They can request changes in setbacks, heights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my 2 cents worth for the record.
How do we do on ADUs? The better off we're going to be in general. Because we'll hit our number that way, and we could actually come up with a real way for lower income housing. All right, anything else then? All right, I need a motion to adjourn. That was
Sandy.
That's mine? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming. All right. Hopefully this gets